This is Monocle Fashion, the show Monocle Radio bringing you global perspectives and nuanced conversations on the worlds of fashion and style. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco, Monocle's senior correspondent, sitting in for Natalie Teodosi. On today's program, we appraise Laura Weir's sophomore London Fashion Week as CEO of the British Fashion Council.
It's not necessarily expanding on what London Fashion Week is doing, but sort of reaffirming the values of it and narrowing the vision a little bit.
We'll hear from Kazna, the Yemeni British designer bringing Ramadan to Fashion Week.
The models will be in the collection, and then halfway through we'll be breaking our fast and hosting an iftar and bringing the Ramadan vibes to London Fashion Week.
And meet Phoebe, the designer for whom sustainability isn't just PR.
So we just started to use the collections as a way to explore some of those ideas. So seeing them not just as a creative endeavour, but as a learning opportunity.
That's all ahead here on Monocle Fashion. Fashion Month is now truly underway, with London Fashion Week drawing to a close today and Milan coming round the corner. So I'm joined now by Monocle's Associate Editor of Fashion and Design, Grace Charlton, who has been stage-side at London Fashion Week, and down the line we're joined again by Monocle's Fashion Director, Natalie Teodosi. Grace, I'll start with you because we are here in London. Today is the final day of London Fashion Week. Tell us, I know there's been a few changes, since Laura Weir became in charge of this Fashion Week. Now it's her second one. So what do you feel? Did she really implement those changes? Are you feeling optimistic about the whole event?
I actually am. Obviously, I'm biased. I want London Fashion Week to do well. This is where I'm based. But just in general, it feels like a little bit more of a slicker operation. The schedule is super strong, I think. She's pulled off a coup, which is having King Charles III come and attend a show by Tolu Koko, who's this amazing London-based designer who was actually nominated for the LVMH prize last year. So I think she is bringing back clever marketing, and it's not necessarily expanding on what London Fashion Week is doing, but sort of reaffirming the values of it and narrowing the vision a little bit. That's the vibe I'm getting from just being on the ground, running from show to show.
I think the word reaffirming is always very good. You don't need to expand. Sometimes you have to do what you do best, right? You did mention the king. I have to ask, how was the king?
It was quite funny. I showed up at this show and the invite, basically everyone knows that fashion shows don't start on time. They start around 20 minutes, 30 minutes late at best if you're lucky. And on the invite to the show, it said, make sure you're there at this time. The doors will close at this time, and usually it was quite surprising. It's very strict. So anyway, everyone arrived on time and we were security searched and, checked, all the bags were checked and everything. And I thought, oh, this is new for London Fashion Week. Maybe they're setting a new tone, in terms of the security. And then we were all there waiting for the show to start. And it was about an hour late and, everyone was a little bit annoyed because we'd been told to be there on time. And then suddenly this big voice came over and was like, please rise for His Majesty, King Charles III. And I was so surprised. I was literally like, what? He's here because it was the day that Prince Andrew was arrested. So, massive coup for the marketing team at the BFC, at the British Fashion Council.
Absolutely.
But he was really enjoying it. He was sort of bopping along to the music and pointing at different dresses. So I think he might be a Tolu Koko fan.
Ooh, I like that. We are also Koko fans, right? So, and Natalie, I was going to ask, do you share this optimism for London Fashion Week like Grace was telling us here?
Definitely. I think since Laura Weir joined, there has been a lot of excitement. I know that she has big ambitions. It's still only her first 2 seasons as CEO, and she has big ambitions to also experiment with new formats and really grow London Fashion Week. But already, as Grace is saying, you can feel the energy shift. I know that a lot of the designers have been extremely happy to get more support, and also the fees for participating at London Fashion Week have been waived, which is huge, especially for the independent brands. And there's effort to bring editors from abroad, from new markets to London again. So I think that makes it worth their while much more. So definitely more optimistic. And I think I've seen that there's so much talent still in London to discover and to get excited about. I mean, Tolu Cocker is one of them, but looking at the Fashion East showcase that happened during the weekend, I've seen a Phoebe Philo alumnus make his debut, a brand called Goya Goma by a Bahamas-born designer that seems like a kind of brand that's both wearable and conceptual, and it looks like we're going to have a big star come up in London again, which seems really interesting.
That's very exciting. What about you, Grace, from the shows you've attended? What really caught your eye?
I really enjoyed the Joanna Parv show. She is quite a young designer as well. This is her second season showing as part of London Fashion Week. But she makes, to me, she exemplifies how a designer like her could only come out of a place like London. She makes these clothes that are very technical wear, very East London, get on your bike movement. And she did this show and it really felt like there was a community and so much excitement already growing. And the next day I went to Simone Rocha, and she's also got this incredible community of like Simone Rocha diehard fans who show up in the dresses and everything. I know Natalie also really loves Simone shows for this. So I think maybe in London there's more of an opportunity to become a word-of-mouth cool designer that has like this really niche community that rallies around them. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed Labrum. It's a brand by Fode Dumbaye. He's been on the circuit for a little while, but he does like Adidas collaborations. I remember you really enjoyed the Sierra Leone Olympics uniform he did a few years ago.
So chic.
Yeah, so that was another good one. And I mean, tonight there's Burberry, which is very exciting. It's sort of the one big name that London has.
You need those sometimes as well. I know it's good to be, creative, new, but I think sometimes those big names, they anchor a little bit the event.
For sure. I think it gives validation to London Fashion Week. I wish we had a few more big names, if I'm being completely honest. It would be good. But anyway, very exciting.
And the BAFTAs were in town, so there's always a few celebrities here as well. And Natalie, before I go back to Grace, because I know, Grace, you're going to Milan tomorrow. Milan and Paris are coming up. I mean, what do you think, Natalie, is going to happen? Because I think this year should be the year of consolidation, don't you think? After all the changes in creative directors, I think we discussed this a few months ago, that this is going to be perhaps a little bit calmer. What do you think?
Exactly. I think it was such a monumental season last season that I'm hoping that the pressure on the designers will ease off a bit now that they've made their big anticipated debuts, and they'll be able to get a bit more creative and really hone in their visions for each brand. I think we've really seen it with Dior. Jonathan Anderson made his menswear debut last summer, but as he debuted his second menswear collection and then couture, you could really start to see his world coming together, which is really exciting. So people will still be watching very carefully to see the sophomore collections for Jonathan Anderson by Dior, Mathieu Blasi for Chanel. And with Milan coming up, which has become a little bit of a smaller schedule, I think all eyes will be on Fendi and Maria Grazia Chiuri, who's an incredible woman making her debut at a house with a lot of potential to grow even further, I think. So I think that's the big news this week coming out of Milan.
After Burberry, you're getting your plane to Milan. What are you looking forward, Grace, finally?
Definitely Fendi, as Natalie just said. It's very exciting. And Jill Sander, I'm a huge, huge Simone Bellotti fan. I mean, he's like the fashion editor's favorite designer. He did this amazing job at Bali, like reinvigorating that house. And he's been at Jill Sander. This will be his sophomore collection as well. So I'm going to be looking to that. And then I always adore Prada. And then Gucci. Gucci will be huge as well.
Very curious for Gucci. Listen, Grace and Natalie, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Natalie Teodosi there, Monocle's fashion director, and Grace Charlton, associate editor of fashion and design. Thank you for joining me. This is Monocle on Fashion. Now, sticking with London Fashion Week, one of the designers closing London Fashion Week today is Kazna Asker, the Yemeni British designer from Sheffield, known for combining traditional Middle Eastern fabrics and design with elements of streetwear. Monocle Fashion's producer Lily Austin was giving a peek at the collection ahead of today's presentation.
So this collection is called Hour of Sunset, and it's kind of inspired by my heritage, but going more deeper into it. So it has a lot of Yemeni traditional fabrics. Since my last collection, I visited the Middle East so many times, and I got to meet so many like Yemeni communities in those countries. I went to Egypt, Oman, Saudi, Qatar, and it was just crazy because like the communities is like what I have at home in Sheffield, but just seeing how like they've established themselves as well was cool. And I bought fabrics from every like market that I went to in those countries, and they're kind of like in this collection. So I can show you here. Also, it's like a mixture of like a lot of streetwear, like I usually do, like combining like my British upbringing with my Yemeni heritage, and like how I always used to wear tracksuits and things. But I feel like my first collection at Fashion Week was all streetwear, and then my second collection, I tried to introduce more tailoring, and then this collection, I really tried to go more into tailoring as well and add more traditional garments. So yeah, this is like a Yemeni scarf that I actually bought from Egypt. And then this traditional, also these fabrics, like these shiny ones, they're from like, I think they're used for like abayas in Saudi, but for like weddings and things. So my dad bought me these when he went to Saudi. What else? Yes, this, and then
beautiful detailing with these.
Oh yeah, with the feathers. Well, this fabric, with like the feathers and the embroidery and things, these are used for like dresses that we wear to weddings across Yemen and the Gulf and East Africa. And they kind of like see through, and then you wear like a bright coloured dress underneath, which should like pop out. But I think this is like the new style now with the feathers in the region. Yeah, so I got some of those as well. I also have some screen printed details, because I really wanted to include henna art in this collection on the models. So I thought if I added the geometric details in the collection as well, it would like connect the henna to the pieces. And then these are like some more upholstery fabrics that we usually use for like our sofas and carpets and things, trying to like bring the home aspect into the collection. And then the tassels and things, like they're always used in traditional garments to like tie things. No one really uses belts. So I thought it would be cool to include those instead of like usually like the modern streetwear trimmings that I always use. And then the tailored pieces are inspired by the drapes of the scarves that the men would wear in the desert. So I thought I'd incorporate that into like some more tailored pieces. So I have a waistcoat and a blazer. This is the men's wear blazer and the women's wear.
Beautiful.
And then the traditional fabrics from the carpets, we printed them onto like some recycled cotton for the suit materials. Yeah, so this is like the carpet fabrics. And then this is like a headscarf that we wear on our heads, but it's really see-through, so I had to like layer it over some more fabrics. And then the sportswear details of the pipings.
You mentioned bringing in elements of the home into your collection, and I know you've kind of done that in previous collections too. Why is that important to you?
I feel like that's kind of the reason why I got into fashion. I was always kind of like mesmerized by like what my family would wear and things, especially like the silhouettes. Like some of my families are in traditional abayas and hijabs, and then my cousins are always in tracksuits, and then like even what I wear is like a combination of both, like these traditional scarves. I think my dad got me this from Saudi as well. But these are like traditionally worn by men, but I wear them all the time. And then I'm always wearing like streetwear clothes as well. So just like combining those two worlds is kind of like the home that I grew up around. And I just want to show people that, because I feel like not many people were exposed to those cultures like combined together. I think they like think like you have to be like modest, or like actually I think people see modesty as like a certain way, but as like the next generation that have been here, we've reinterpreted it so many different ways. So like I think that's why it's important for me to show.
And tell me a little bit about your plans for the presentation of the collection.
So the presentation, so it's Ramadan, so during the presentation, most of like my team and my models and my family will all be fasting. So the beginning of the presentation, the models will be in the collection, and then halfway through we'll be breaking our fast and hosting an iftar and bringing like the Ramadan vibes to London Fashion Week.
And why was it important for you to do this?
I feel like Ramadan is a very it's a holy month, but I feel like it's a really like special time for my community. And you kind of literally stop everything you're doing in life to like prioritize like certain qualities, like prioritize charity work, prioritize like looking after your family, feeding your family, not raising your voice. Even like when I'm arguing with my family, I'm always like, oh, I need to be quiet. Just like prioritizing like goodness and being a better person. And obviously like we try to do that all year round, but I feel like in Ramadan, there's like a specific intention and discipline and commitment to do that. And there's like an energy in the air. And I feel like so many people aren't exposed to that energy. And this is my final New Gen presentation as well. So I just thought, if it's in Ramadan, this is like the perfect time to expose people to like that part of my culture as well.
Last season, you did this amazing partnership collaboration with Tank Magazine and had a couple of days of pop-up shops and panel discussions. I went to one of them about sustainability and found it really kind of resonant in how kind of wide-ranging the conversation was about different aspects of sustainability. So I wanted to ask you if that experience, those few days and that presentation kind of inspired you or taught you anything that you've kind of carried through into this collection and this presentation?
I think so. I feel like that whole presentation was I feel like everyone was really genuine during that whole presentation. I think, sometimes with Fashion Week, it's very like glitz and glamour and very quick, go. But I feel like for those 3 days, it was very like sincere and genuine. And I think we raised like a lot of money for Palestine as well. And I think it really helped me like encourage collaboration and charity work in everything that I do.
That was Kazna Asker there, speaking with Monocle Fashion's Lily Austin. And finally on today's show, the British Fashion Council has partnered with Copenhagen Fashion Week to adopt their sustainability requirements across the New Gen program, which showcases emerging designers at London Fashion Week. From this season on, New Gen designers must meet a number of sustainability requirements. One established designer they could take notes from is Phoebe English, who over the last few years has worked towards adopting a circular fashion production model. From design all the way through to a garment's post-customer life, the process and product is as sustainable as possible. To hear more about how she does this and the latest collection, Monocle's Lily Austin visited Phoebe at her studio in South London.
It's been a really confusing collection to do because I've not worked in this way before. So the majority of time has been spent figuring out what on earth it is that we're doing.
What's been different about it compared to previous collections?
So I'd never normally decorate the body in this way. And I would never work in as literal as this. And I would never also replicate any natural forms. So it's kind of going against a lot of things I would never normally be interested in.
Because in this one you have the flowers,
yeah.
I can see 3D kind of pieces.
So it was kind of, as a process, it's been really confusing and I haven't really been sure where it's been going the whole way through, and it's just beginning to appear maybe like the beginning of last week. It's starting to kind of make itself apparent. So it's been a bit confusing, and it roughly follows the calendar year, and it includes elements of plants, different plants that I've encountered across the year that have given me like a sustenance, like a spiritual sustenance. I guess I have always felt like a kind of like there's something that happens when like I encounter a plant. There's some kind of transference of energy, which is kind of embarrassing to say. Probably sounds a bit weird, but there's like an enlightenment that happens. And also it's something about the predictability of knowing that these things are going to appear to us throughout the year.
I feel like with your previous collections, it's been more and more connected with nature as you've got more into the kind of sustainability side of things, you know, the natural dyeing and so on.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's kind of a natural progression to come to this point.
Exactly. It feels quite exposing as well, because I feel like the collections usually have like an element of obscurity or abstraction, which kind of, I guess, veils what they're truly about, or veils who I am as a person. But whereas I feel like this is like total like my full personality in and without a curve. So yeah, it feels a bit exposing to me to do work like this, because this is like the full flower fairy that usually is not like visible. So global fashion and textile industries is incomprehensibly large and extremely damaging. And even though we're really small, we're still kind of, you know, we're still part of that industry or sector. So yeah, I guess there was like a time when I was thinking about maybe like removing myself from the fashion space, and actually sort of came to the conclusion that we could actually just use the act of being part of it as a way of exploring other approaches. And I didn't really have a plan. Like I hadn't really like learned about sustainability when I was studying, and you know, we don't have like budgets to get consultants in and stuff. So we kind of just had to figure stuff out. So we started reading and watching documentaries, and I guess most importantly, like talking to people. So we just started to use the collections as a way to explore some of those ideas. So learning by doing. So seeing them not just as a creative endeavour, but as a learning opportunity. Yeah, so we did that for a couple of seasons, and then realised that once you know all that stuff, it was really hard to not know it, and felt confident enough to fully embed it in what we were doing. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going to run a sustainable label. It's really just been, a case of learning and exploring and researching each time we make a collection. And then, building that into other elements, obviously, like building partnerships with other companies who are producing textile waste. So that might be things that go over several years, which then feeds into the fact that we might show or display or present the work in a different way, because, again, the lead time is like way, way longer than just using some fabric from a swatch book and paying for it and arriving on a roll. So then we started to show in a different way. So instead of showing 4 times a year, we went down to 2, and now we've gone down to 1. So we have like a full year to build in all this careful research. And then, starting to go forward is working out how we can work with people who are stewards of the land in really positive ways or replenishing ways. So looking at things like regenerative agriculture and working out how we can be implementing regenerative design and what that even means, what the definition of that could actually mean in practical measures. Obviously we're in a car park, like completely removed from nature. So like our way to, how can we make design decisions which positively impact our natural systems. So that's really been about sort of reassessing colour and the ingredients that we can be connecting with or supporting in order to get colour that's regional and healthy. So, you know, a fibre could go back to the soil at the end of a garment's life. So it's not a case of having like a colour story on a mood board and matching to that. It's about responding to the realities of what we can source regionally, what's available during that particular season of the year, what there's leftovers of, what's been trimmed off, and we can use the trimmings and all those things. That's what informs the colour in the collections. It's not just choosing a colour and matching it to it. So it's a really, really different way of working.
And I imagine it's the same with the design, the shape, the fabrics you use. It's dictated by what fabric you have, what's available, and that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's totally responsive, and that's why we now take a whole year, because, you know, there's months of sourcing and or foraging or discovering all these magpieing all these materials together from various different sources, and then we can work with all those different waste materials in different ways. So, for example, if we're receiving really large quantities of leftover or damaged fabric or dead stock fabric, and that might be, you know, hundreds of meters, and then again that would form different decision-making pathways in terms of silhouette. Maybe that might be something we can include pleats or gathers. That might be more volume because it's, you know, fabric needs to be used rather than wasted, whereas, you know, the small offcuts, that might lead itself into something that's maybe more form-fitting on the body and less voluminous. So all these elements of the waste and the nature of the waste informs the design process. So it's really responding to the realities of the material, the colourway, the fibre content, the opacity, all those things help. So yeah, it goes really against my nature in a way because I have to be so patient. But yeah, it's, I guess, looking at the business as like a long-term accumulative action because we're so tiny. For us, it's about accumulative work rather than like the quantity we can do now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that, the sort of, I guess, business side of it. I imagine, is each piece different, unique, and what is the kind of, I guess, model for selling to your customers?
Yeah, I guess that's changed a lot over the years. We don't really work with shops anymore. So we've been able to move very much away from this place of having to do replicable, exact replicas of something we've shown, which we can still do because we tend to work with fabric where we can find good matches. But at the moment we're predominantly working one by one customer, and so again everything comes out, you know, specific to that person, and every time you do a patchwork it will be entirely unique to that particular process. So, you know, they are, a lot of what we're doing is, specific and different each time, but within the same nature, if that's the same visual tone.
That was Monocle Fashion's producer Lily Austin speaking with the designer Phoebe English. And that's it for today's program. Join us next week for more Fashion Week dispatches and in-depth interviews. This episode was produced and edited by Lily Austin. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Thanks for listening.